So pay yourself first, guys, is no kidding the first key. All right, next one. Now we got to know what to do with the money. Do you know one thing I know about you? So you've seen the bad news. What kind of news sell? Bad news. Therefore, you are cynical. Therefore, you do not believe, do not trust other people. Because you get this. Bad news have the juices. Can you imagine what type of world would we have if it was balanced out and became law that any media had to have 60% good news and 40% bad news? Right? We would live in a better planet straight away. Because our frames of reference would change. So what actually happens here is this. Now you have your $5,000 because the last 50 weeks you've been putting $100 away. Now what are you going to do with the money? Well, no, I'm going to go in the marketplace. And everybody's trying to sell you something. Every single person is trying to flog you something. So who wants to be sold anything? Right? So when I say to you, imagine if there was a machine, you could type something in the machine, and the machine would spit back at you everything about that topic. Imagine if that was possible. Imagine if that was possible, that I could go into a window and say superannuation, I think just millions of articles come at me about it. Imagine if that was possible. It is possible, Julie. It's called the internet. Google it, right? So how come people are not wiser? Why they haven't got base one yet? They're hypnotized by income. They're all worried about their bills. Money working for me, what's that? Oh, you made the first distinction. Okay, got it. Now you made the first distinction. Now you're going to go to the marketplace. You go in the marketplace. And everybody's trying to flog you something. So you understand that all the evidence I'm going to give you for shares is going to blow everything else out of the water. Right? All the evidence I'm going to give you about property is going to blow everything out of the water. Because I'm trying to sell you something, you know. So if you go to the share guys, what are they going to tell you to buy? If you go to the property guy, if you go to the options guy, what is he going to say to you? He says, this is the ultimate game. If you go to the gold guy, what's he going to tell you? Well, my conversation with you today is this: why when you have everything? Every year we have to put up with the conversation that goes like this: which one is better, property or shares? And the arguments for either are great, incredible, right? Why when you have both? Why when you? Wow, yeah, I never thought about it that way, right? So what I want to show you now is this, in terms of putting this together and just making sure that, could I offer you such an insight? What I want to show you, and I showed some of you this on my 2 hours, but here it is, guys. There's no kidding. This is an incredible, incredible thing. What I want you to understand is this. There is no integration in Australia. Can I just show you, give you an insight? Who in Australia today, legally, can speak about property investment? Think about it for a second. No one. Excuse me? Well, it's on tape. Let's explore it. Can the accountant speak to you about property investment? No, he's not a real estate agent or a financial advisor. Can the real estate agent talk to you about investing? No, he's not a financial planner. Can the financial planner talk to you about property investment? No, it's not on his approved list. Can the solicitor talk to you about property investment? No. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Who can you go and talk to today? No one. And yet other property investments are happening all the time. So what happened? This is happening all the time. So there's no integration. There's no conversation of putting it all together. Now we're going to do this today. That's what we're doing. We're going to build this thing. I'm going to dismantle it. Okay? I'm not going to put it together for you step by step. But the whole conversation here is this. Simply a system where houses buy houses. Okay? And then against the houses we buy the managed funds, we buy the bonds, we buy the shares, we buy the superannuation. And all of this can only start the moment you start paying yourself. Now some of you already paid yourself and don't even know. And I'll show you that too. We call it the fat guy. Okay? Some of you already paid yourself a lot of money and you don't even know, never thought about it. But we're gonna explore this today. But guys, get this. This is just a system to drive a lot of capital. Now, you see the little walls here, the little yellow lines? They are not just a pretty thing so you can see this. They are firewalls. They finance. Okay, let me explain something to you here. Some of you may have heard of Storm. Some of you may have heard of West Point in Australia, or in Western Australia, right? There's other companies that go on there. The truth is this. If you have a look at this model, make an assumption that the very first home over there is their own home, right? Can you see that the managed fund is borrowed against a property investment? Can you see that the shares are borrowed against a property investment? Can you see this? All right? And can you see that the lines represent firewalls? What does that mean? Well, every time you're going to move, so you're going to buy another house, that house has to stand alone. The deal, the numbers on that deal has to stand, and those properties not going to be cross-collateralized. I'm actually going to show you this in full. So every time you move, that deal has to stand alone. All right? So you do the numbers, yep, bang, it stands alone, yeah, good. Then you're going to buy another one. Now you're interested in managed funds and in shares. Well, let's buy your shares against a property investment. Why? Because the way shares work, they're just pieces of paper. Okay? So if you buy $100,000 worth of shares in that day, you buy $100,000 worth of little bits of businesses. Right? That's what you're doing. If the value of that business come down, you still pay the $100,000. Okay? Managed funds is exactly the same thing. It's a fund where somebody is managing it for you and investing in a billion things. So if you put $100,000 into a managed fund, you go from cash, okay, to paper. Now the guy says to you, sorry man, yeah, well your managed fund's worth $100,000, and then the world had a hiccup financially, and now it's worth $60,000. But your contract, what contract between you and the lender, you and the bank, is for $100,000. So they say you need to calibrate our exchange here. It's called a margin call. So you need to put some money back in because the values of your paper you bought now is way below our agreement. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now check this out. If in this house here, if this house was worth $400,000 and I owed $200 on it, all right? And I pulled $100,000 from it, boom. Why? To invest. So let's just say that this house here is with a bank, okay? Shebanga Bank. Okay? So you go to the bank and says, I would like to borrow $100,000 against my house security for that loan. Okay, cool. So they lend $100,000, and you go then to Dinga Bank. And it says, hi, I want to put $100,000 here, I want to buy shares, and you put it in a different platform. How much did you pull? 100. So let's just say that you pulled 100 and you leave 30 in cash, yeah? And you invest 70 into managed funds, and guess what? You can even gear the 70 into another 30, 40, 50. You understand? Gear the share portfolio, meaning you borrow against the share portfolio itself, right? To have a bigger share portfolio. And you let it rip. Next thing is, the economy has a hiccup. Your shares go, woo! The bank calls you up and says to you, oh, sorry, your shares are going to come down in value. You need to pump in another 20 grand. Where's that 20 grand coming from? The 30 you left here as cash. In case. It's called a buffer. But let me show you what most Australians are faced with. They borrowed against their own home. Right? And they borrowed and took it all, put it into a managed fund, bang. Highly geared. Next thing is, your managed fund, you spend $200,000 in your managed fund, $100,000 in your managed fund, and now it dropped to 60. You need to find 40 grand. There's no buffer at their home. Do you have $40,000 under the pillow? No. Well, where are you going to pull 40 grand from? Oh, your house is borrowed to the max. Sorry, we have got to sell it. Excuse me? Yeah. Because we need to get that 20% that you have in there, right? So we can pay the bank back. And that's what it means, capital. You understand what I'm saying now? That's what people don't realize. So the chain reaction here, folks, is houses that buy houses, and then your investment houses start buying everything else. So if your shares here lost value, right, and they come back, bang, and hit this house here, chances are, okay, you sell the share portfolio, sell that house, everything else stays. Now, isn't that beautiful? Now, who said he don't show you this? So there's not enough time. You go and see a finance broker. They want to sell you funds. He's never going to sit to you, and we're going to go into firewalls later, never explore to you that you should go with multiple banks. Now you go to a managed fund guy, he's going to say, oh, you with us with the NAB? Yeah, okay. You with us with the Commonwealth Bank? Yes, okay. Doesn't matter which bank you are with, they have the investment products. And chances are when you finish with that, you finish with the typical financial planner in Australia today, he's going to tell you to borrow against your property, put into funds, give you a thick document like this, okay? If you give the funds, they're going to call it sophisticated. I'm bored already. How many financial planners did you go to see to told you to buy houses? How many property people you went to see that told you to buy shares and manage funds? All right? I don't know. This is beautiful. This is incredibly cool. Right? Now, if you look at this way, if you don't mind putting your head like this for me for a second, and you see the houses are pot plants. Right? And what's coming out of the house are the trees. See, I'm a misunderstood artist. I just see these little trees, coming out of the pots, and oh, here we go. Do you want, guys, the point here is this. If some of this goes wrong, you quarantine the other stuff. And that's what I want you to get out of this. Every time you move, the next move, you do the numbers of the next move. Now, you've got to write this down. There is no such a thing as investing without risk. If anyone says to you, oh, it's safe, it's okay, it's not real. You cannot invest without risk. Now, let me say something else. It may scare some of you. You cannot drive without risk either. Cannot get behind a wheel without risk every single time. All right? I was thinking, do I say this word? I don't. Do I? You cannot go into a relationship without risk. Cannot. All right? Cannot. So, the concept here is getting rich is a system, folks. Getting rich is a system. And it's not a get-rich-quick system. Okay? It's one step at a time. Now, somebody help me out. Where's the beginning?